The House of Secrets. It's a very strange house.
Well, the question why Andropov said that NTS was enemy number one is something that many people ask themselves about. Why NTS? Nobody knows about NTS. In fact, in Russia, everybody knew about NTS. And therefore, I must say Andropov was a very clever man.
The NTS, after the war, certainly, by far, as far as I know, the most active anti-communist organization.
NTS, it wants Russia to be strong, but not with this system. That is different from what CIA or MI5 or whoever in the West were actually wanting.
The NTS was initially formed of young people. Most of them had been born pre-revolution in Russia, but had rejected the old Tsarist symbols, if you like, and were looking for alternative philosophies and blamed the old system for what had happened in Russia and believed that you had to create a new revolution in Russia against the Bolsheviks. With the NTS, one of the strongest principles is the concept of the free word and the understanding of the concept of freedom. A lot of Russian literature was banned in the former Soviet Union, so people like Akhmatova, for example, a very famous Russian poet, is here, as other famous writers are, and therefore one of the main issues was how to express this free word into the Soviet Union at that time.
'83 Bering Road was quite a unique place. It harboured a lot of authors from the Soviet Union, Solzhenitsyn, of course, and people like Vladimir Maximov, Ginsberg, Bukowski, Leonid Borodin, another one.
It was both a place where we lived, but it was also a functional place. We ran the Association for Free Russia, which was a couple of hundred English individuals with links into the Young Liberals, into the Conservatives and Socialist parties. We had individuals who were fundamentally anti-communist within the socialist movement. Heffer would be one example.
Both George, my brother, and Boris, my father, worked exclusively for NTS. They were in the executive council, so they were very high up in its organisation.
The idea of NTS was that we have to fight against the communism, but not with guns. And the way to spread ideas, the best way, the only way, was to print it and to make electoral revolution. Revolution in the mind.
In this house we have about 20,000 Russian books.
I visited Berry Road 4 or 5 times. I felt myself like a fairy tale boy who gets treasure unexpectedly, It was like a miracle.
Many authors who spent a lot of time incarcerated by the Soviet authorities in gulag camps. For example, Irina Ratushenska's fantastic poet, her husband, who used to go and visit her, would memorize her poems and then write them down when he got home. And that's how she managed to write a lot of her work. Their work was smuggled out and into the West to be published and smuggled back into the Soviet Union, which was quite something.
Но я знаю, сколько добра они принесли людям и в области культуры, сколько прекрасных произведений литературы было перевезено.
There were different ways of packaging the books on the individual, and so you could carry all the books on your body. So the main thing was to stop being strip searched when you're going into Russia.
I had an old lady from Belgium. She took 6 kilograms of books on her and passed and came back, and everything was fine. So it's a question of just preparation, how you behave.
They treated NTS as the most dangerous enemy.
KGB was not very happy about what we were doing, and they tried to close us by putting a bomb in the publishing house.
Once we learned that we could assist in bringing about change in Eastern Europe, people went from my network and friends' networks. Sometimes people went knowing that arrest and detention was likely. Sometimes that was even the plan.
Free the Chechen! Free the Chechen!
I travelled to Moscow as part of a tour group in December 1979 to take some material to a noted anti-Soviet author, Georgy Vladimov. His most famous book was called Faithful Ruslan, about a dog in a prison camp. And then follow instructions to go to his flat, which I successfully did, met him, handed over the material, got a microfilm of his latest book, and then successfully left with this microfilm, which was then subsequently published outside.
Some leaflets were falling from the balloon, which was about 8 meters high, and it could take up to 60-80 kilograms of literature. After the perestroika, I have personally met people who told that, yes, I remember, boing, there was a book, or some journals.
I knew a lot of people in Radio Free Europe active in the NTS propaganda, which emanated from there, and that, of course, the effect is, I suppose, literally incalculable. Many people we know, but lots of people in Russia listen to it.
Вот репортаж сотрудника русской службы BBC Сэма Джонса.
All these things did help to undermine the situation and encourage people within Russia.
You would meet a filmmaker and discuss with him how you would introduce an idea of freedom. So it may not necessarily have been the concept of a free society openly expressed, but it would be a free society openly expressed through the film.
NTS really was the intellectual campaign really was the most effective one in the end. But it's essential in any revolutionary or counter-revolutionary movement to move at all levels, really.
In 1990, when it became very clear to us within the NTS that the Soviet Union was collapsing, many of our individuals involved in the hierarchy of the organization were very concerned about it being another ploy. And there was a discussion whether we should actually go ahead openly or not. And there was a decision made at that meeting, which was the NTS Council, which decided by 11 votes to 9 not to go into the former Soviet Union and actually form the next government.
How did it make you feel at the time?
Disgusted, that's why I left the NTS.